All right, welcome back. Great to be with you again for another week of Leader Seeds. Today's topic will be refreshingly authentic. I'll share from you from a perspective that I personally don't think I see enough of in the work that we do, and that's from the student seat. A lot of people that when you get into a place that we're teaching and maybe you're presenting or speaking, or maybe you're just in a leadership role, we forget that the best seat in the room is actually the student seat, right? So if you've heard the previous episode, that was the first episode when I came back from this break, and I explained why I took the break and why I came back and all that. If you haven't heard it, go check it out real quick. But building from that, continuing on with that conversation, today I'd like to share some lessons I learned in that break, in that pause, but also some lessons I'm relearning. Because sometimes we think we're constantly chasing the new framework, the new acronym, the new whatever you want to call it, the new book that was released, right? And we forget that a lot of times it's not just new information if we haven't practiced and really embraced the other lessons that we already know of. But it's like, if it fills my head, am I walking it out? That's the question we got to ask, right? Do you really know about it if you're not actually doing it every single day? Like, do you know this information? And what others say, here's a good question. Would others relate that to you? Because if they won't, what good is it? What good is information that just fills our head, but actually it's not who we are in life and how we actually interact in this life? So today, that's the angle that we're going to come with. I have some framework, like always, just to kind of keep things organized. If you are taking notes, awesome. Go ahead and write some notes. I'll share with you some points that I think is definitely worthwhile to capture. And if you're driving or working out or just moving and listening in, just like I do at times, no need to feel like you got to take notes. Things will be in the transcript, or you can reach out to us directly, and we're happy to get that to you. So what I want to share is, like, in that season, like I said, just going back a little bit, I didn't stop doing the work. I focus on certain parts of the work, right? In the book Post Check that I have, we talk about 4 seasons of leadership. And in a season of run, it's all about focusing on certain things. And you almost want to get really focused and eliminate other things, right? Priorities are all about saying what is important and what is not important. And in that season, the podcast, the recording and everything, what was taken from it, I needed to focus on other things. So we paused the podcast in that season, and we continued to push efforts into other parts that we were doing the work in. Now we got some momentum in that, and we go from the run season to this season that we call the row season in that quadrant. And in the row season, there's good momentum, there's systems in place, and the other things that we put a lot of focus into is somewhat on a momentum of its own. There's a team behind it, and now we can put more energy and effort into the podcast. So in that, there's some lessons along the way, like always, right? You can always continue to learn, and I want to share that with you today. You see, it's one thing to really talk about priorities. It's completely different when you have to disappoint people because they may not be a priority. You see what I'm saying? It's one thing to say, I know all about priorities, Paul Keller, but are you living that out? Are you actually living a life that says, this is my priority, so this is my yes, and this is my no, right? A clear indicator with someone that says, yeah, I know about priorities, but their calendar is double, triple booked. You see, it's filling your head, you know about priorities, but it's really hard to practice it. And that's one example, right? Now, another part is like, what about boundaries? That's a big topic, right? But it's easy to talk about boundaries. It's much harder when you start to feel guilty because you're setting them, or you're allowing others to make you feel guilty because of your boundaries. I heard it said before, the only people that would not like your boundaries is the people that have overstepped your boundaries. Right? That's the only people that's not going to like boundaries is the people that have overstepped them, in a sense, right? When you set certain boundaries, you're not really shutting people off. You're just telling them, this is how you access me. That's why there's a difference between a gate and a wall. If you want more information on that, in the book Post Check, we talk about that, where it's like there's a difference. Boundaries isn't a wall keeping people out, because when you do that, you actually keep yourself closed in and you actually start to live in a prison. That's not boundaries. I didn't plan on going this deep on it, but let me just, for clarity's sake, a boundary is not avoiding a difficult conversation. If you need to apologize to someone, if you need to take that action, you can't use the excuse that I have boundaries with someone just because you don't want to apologize. You see, that's where people get it twisted. That's a real life example that I was working with someone with, and they were struggling with it. Their excuse was, I have a boundary, Paul Kella. And it's like, well, the boundary is actually keeping you in prison. Like in order to grow, right? Boundaries help you stay focused to grow. It's healthy growth. It's not isolation. So if we're neglecting a difficult conversation, that's not a boundary. So they start to feel guilty when you hold them and people don't like them. So it's much different to know about boundaries than to practice them. It's easy to teach healthy leadership. It's a entirely different thing to actually practice what you preach. To actually go ahead and say, okay, I'm not just gonna know about the information or the data. I'm gonna try to practice this. I want to walk this out, right? Even though it's a little uncomfortable, I'm gonna walk it out. So if you're taking notes, the first thing I want you to write down, the first thing that we'll cover real quick, this is something that I relearned in this season that I was focusing in, and we stopped the podcast, is that information doesn't equal transformation. Information doesn't equal transformation. I touched on this a little bit when we were setting this up right now, earlier in the podcast, that information, a lot of times in today's world, there's this chase that I want to be the first to know. I want to be the first to have that data, that information. The challenge with that is that that doesn't really, if that's all the pursuit is, after you get it, you don't actually walk it out, you don't embrace it, you don't test it, dare I say. We should test some information. Not every information that is out there we should receive and absorb. Come on, you know where I'm going with this, right? If we don't even do that, if the whole pursuit is just information, there will be no growth. There'll be no development. There'll be no, it's a constant chase of just being maybe the first in the room, the first in line. We see this in conferences. When you do a conference, there's a lot of people that go to conferences over and over and over again, and they just never really grow or change or evolve. They never really get better, right? They want to be in the room, and it kind of gets an emotional hijack, right? And the thing is, that happens because we're avoiding the real transformation. Transformation starts to challenge us in a way. If we're just seeking for information that just affirms who we are, how do we think that information that actually wants to change us will actually help? Because we're going to actually avoid that information, right? We're looking for information that just affirms our bad behavior. You see where I'm going with this? That's why information doesn't equal transformation. I've read all the books. I've attended conferences. I've coached leaders. I've facilitated workshops. And some of you listening to this may have done the same. But we all know, if you've done it, that it doesn't end there. There's more to it after that. You can read the book on trust, but how are you actually building trust? It's almost like the information actually increases your awareness. And if you haven't experienced this yet, I want to challenge you to do this. This will be your challenge from this episode. Take the next book, the next conference, the next video you watch. If you just want to watch a video, right? The next way that you're getting information, okay? And after you get that information, really look at it in a way and say, okay, how can I walk this out? How can I practice this information, right? So let's get real granular. Let's say we picked up a book or watched a video on trust. And then I want you to really look at your relationships and say, what is the level of trust in this relationship? Is it surface level? Is it deep? Is it in crisis mode that it's still unbreakable? Because just because I've learned a new fancy framework or a nice infogram or whatever, infographic out there, and I see it on the wall, and it's don't let that satisfy your growth. Don't let that satisfy your hunger, right? Really look at it and say, okay, what level of this am I playing at? Just because I got the information, it still doesn't mean that there isn't room to grow. I think you're following me now with this, right? So that's why it's important to reread information or re-watch information. This is a real practical tip I'll just give you, and this is what I did exactly in this season. I started to reread a lot of books that I started in like foundational. I enjoy a new book, but at the same time, I started to look and say, you know what? Let me pick up that book again and let me read it again. Have you ever watched a movie and seen things in that movie that you never seen the first time? Of course you have. We've all done that, right? And it's the same thing with information. It's the same thing with the books. It's the same thing with the videos you watch. It's the same thing. So don't avoid rereading or rewatching something. Trust me, you'll find a deeper lesson or another lesson that you missed, right? The first time was the first time, but it doesn't complete your whole journey with that topic. So in that season, that's the first thing that stood out. Let's jump to the next thing. Before I jump into that, there's a few points I just seen that I want you to catch also. And it's really important because there's parts in that season that will teach you rather than just success. You see, success gets all the spotlights, it gets all the glitter, it gets all the likes in today's world. All the vanity metrics goes on a successful reel. But the truth is, when you search the student seat, when you say, I want to always learn, you can even learn through wrong decisions. You can even learn through a failed performance. I have full transparency. I have been assigned to give a workshop on communication. And that entire week, I am not happy. I'm failing at communication. I'll just be straight up honest, right? I'm struggling with it. I'm having communication challenges on, in my day to day, in my work, and even at home. And I end the day, and sometimes I'm a little beating myself up because I'm like, man, like you're about to teach this, at this conference, and who are you to, you probably had the same thing. You're having all this mental battle about who am I to teach this, and I can't even do this. I have to, wherever you're at with it. Let me just give you a safe space to process this right now. You are sane if you're having that. You are healthy because think about it here. You'd be in complete denial if you're thinking that I'm untouchable. I teach this stuff and I have perfected it. I don't make any mistakes anymore. That's where you'd be insane. Like imagine that person that gets up on the stage and they start to think that I am the greatest communicator on the face of the earth. Like, in all honesty, like that just doesn't happen, right? That's why I say I hope today's is refreshingly authentic for you because that's real time. That's where I'll be assigned to deliver that. Now, it doesn't discredit the information I'm about to give because I still believe in it but when I believe in it doesn't mean I'm continuously a master of it. I'm continuously striving for it. Let's just do that, right? I understand that's the mark. So it helps me understand when I don't reach the mark. But I don't stay there. Before I end the day, I make sure I reflect on that experience. Why did I not show up that way? How can I get better? That's it. How can I learn more? How can I get better the next time? How can I apply this principle that I know, I believe, I see it? That's my goal I'm striving for. How do I continue to do that? You see, that's the real talk. And we don't have that a lot of times. We see in these podcasts or even from stage or conferences or even in books that it seems like these people they figured it out and every person in their life is just loving them. And the truth is they're not. They're human. They're human too, right? Okay, number 2, you can't teach what you won't practice. You can't teach what you won't practice. This is what I call a middle lane wisdom. Middle lane wisdom is when one extreme is wrong and the other extreme is wrong. It's in the middle lane where both connect. That actually, some of you might call it a paradox in a sense, right? So one extreme of this says, well, I can't teach something until I've mastered it. So let's continue that thought process and I'll tell you why that's dangerous. If you start to think I can't teach something until I've mastered it, you are trying to master something before you can impact and change one more person's life. You are neglecting other people to benefit from your initial experience because you want to master before you can help one other person. And the truth is, the moment you master that book, there's going to be another book. And you're going to have to master another book. So it's going to be a constant chase of wanting to master everything, and yet you never help one person. So the pursuit is not to master that, right? And don't hold that back from you actually teaching. Remember, this topic was you can't teach what you won't practice, not what you don't master, right? The middle lane wisdom is you can't teach what you won't practice. So still teach it. If you're practicing it, don't worry about mastering it. If you're practicing it, go ahead and teach it. Go ahead and actually help someone else. Now, the other extreme on this, right, says that, one extreme said that I have to master this, right? And the other extreme says, the minute I see the post, now I can hold a class. Now I can teach people, right? The minute the information fills my head, I can go ahead and I can teach someone else. You see, that is don't do that. because people can hear it in your voice when you haven't walked it out. People can hear it. People can feel it. People know when someone is trying to tell them something that they have not walked themselves. So go ahead and practice it. The easiest thing is, as soon as you learn something, do something, apply it. That's it. Get in the habit of, as soon as you read something, learn something, watch something, whatever it is, your first thought is, I want to test this. I want to go out there and I want to practice it. I want to, I want to walk it out. Give yourself that experience and that time to reflect on it. That right there, then you'll speak from a very authentic place because you've actually walked it out, right? Then people will actually see, then you'll be much more influential because people will hear it in your voice. People will say, well, this isn't a person that's just regurgitating information in their head and they get it and they drop it and they get it and they drop it. No, no, no. They're actually testing this stuff. They're actually not just reading stats or scrolling and seeing something fancy and, like I said, regurgitating a viral hook that now is like, or a viral trend or whatever it is that isn't walked out. Like, people will appreciate you more, like I said, because you're actually going ahead and not just looking at grabbing something and throwing it on their table. Sit with it for a while. Sit with it for a while. Right? Don't have to master this, but practice it. Now let's go ahead on the third one. And the third one is, experience and reflection is a better teacher than success. So this is something that I did a lot of in this season, right? There was a lot of experience that I was actually going ahead. Okay, you put the book together, Paul Keller, post check, and in there it's all about healthy leadership. And guess what? Now you got to protect that health. Nothing was tested more in my healthy leadership journey until after I published the book. Nothing was tested more. The framework we've used before, the framework has always had great results. The framework was actually a really simple framework, to be honest with you. It was very simple. It was very natural. It made sense. But it got tough once I put it out there. And then it's like, this is tested now. Oh, this is tested. Protecting your priorities. Ooh, some people don't like that. Understanding emotional cues. Whoa, ooh, that's some triggers right there. Why was that? Why did that trigger me still? I thought I was healed from that. You see, so in that season, when I'm still going through it, I'm continuing to not just experience things, but also take the time to reflect. You see, a lot of people say experience is the greatest teacher. And I would say, no, it's not, because everyone can experience the same situation. But the person that decides to stop and reflect on it will go much further and much higher than the people that just experience it. Everyone gets an experience. The experience is like the free ticket, right? The experience is like the free ticket to the event. Everyone gets the experience. But only a few people actually grow from that experience. It's the people that actually say, let's take a moment to reflect and learn from that experience. So think about it. The challenges, the betrayal, the politics, the frustration, the disappointment, the success, the win, the relationships, right? We can learn from all of those different things, right? Not from being bitter, but from actually growing. I heard it said some lessons are too expensive to learn from success alone. Some lessons are too expensive to learn from success alone. So here's I got like 5 things that I've learned, and I'll share it up and we'll wrap up this episode. Number 1, not every responsibility belongs to me. You might need to hear that today if you're watching. Someone that's listening to this needs to hear that today. Not every responsibility belongs to me. Say that. Not every responsibility belongs to me. As a leader, it's natural to take responsibility for a lot of the task at hand. It's almost like the closer you get to the corner office or the closer you get to the mountaintop, you start to see all the dust that was swept under the rug. You start to see all the problems, right? And you start to feel like, this is all my responsibility. But guess what? This is a good time, once again, to reflect and to say, I want my yes to be yes. So I want what I need to carry, I want to carry. But I also want to know what is others to carry and let them carry what is theirs to carry. Second lesson, stepping back isn't quitting. Stepping back isn't quitting. In this hustle culture, it's all about like just, go to your knocked out and you're completely done and just drive yourself to these extreme limits. And the truth is, pace will adjust your perspective. Sometimes it's not about quitting or just, it's not all gas and no go. It's sometimes we just gotta downshift a bit. Sometimes we gotta step back. Sometimes we gotta step back a bit, right? Have you ever taken a look from a situation from a different perspective and seen it completely different? You see, so sometimes maybe God's just trying to give you a different perspective. Maybe you're too close to all the craziness. Maybe you gotta adjust the pace, slow down, and you'll see it from a different perspective, right? But we're gonna have to fight against that internal. Or maybe your circle might start to make you feel like you're quitting or you're holding back, and it's not quitting. It's just you're adjusting the perspective. Here's number 4, and I want you to write this down. This is a big one for me, and it's a big one for a lot of people. My identity isn't attached to a role. So your identity is not attached to your role, regardless of how fancy, how prestigious, how great your title makes you feel. You are much more than that, my friend. You are much more than that. You will be much more. You will be given much more challenges and tasks. And don't let your title make you feel good. Like if that's what makes you feel like, oh, I am the blank blank blank. No, no. Once again, like we don't want those things to go to our head, because when those things go to our head, it makes your heart real susceptible and vulnerable to being attacked, right? Then you can be attacked in that space, because now you think that's your identity, right? So don't let that happen. Don't let that happen. If you got questions on what to make your identity, reach out to me. We can spend more time talking about that. But for today, I wanted to put that down. And the last thing, leadership starts and ends with me. If you've never heard that before, I'm glad you're hearing it today for the first time, and I hope you will continue to hear that on this episode in these communities. Leadership starts and ends with me. It has nothing to do with the title or the role that you're given at work, or you are, bestowed this great leadership title or responsibility when they consider you a manager or a lead. No, no, no. The moment you decide that I'm going to walk my talk, that I will lead me, which means I will make sure that what I'm doing is congruent to who I am as a person, what I'm saying, right? My words match my actions. I am responsible for what I commit to. I'm holding my commitments. You see, all of those components start at the individual level. The leader the person that gets a title and has never accepted that will do much more damage to others. I want you to hear that again. The person that accepts the title of a leader or a manager and has not taken their responsibility to lead themselves will do much more damage to others, whether it's intentional or not. So that's where it starts. Leadership starts and ends with me. We got to get out of this world of blaming others, even if your boss is different or your manager is. I'm not saying it's right for them. I'm saying you won't help until you start to take that level of responsibility right where you are, right where you start, right? Then you have some tough decisions to make. This is how we coach and work with leaders along in that path of growth, of healthy leadership, but it starts and ends with me. So a quick reflection and we'll wrap up for today. So my question to you, what leadership lesson are you currently living that no book could teach you? I love to hear it. Put it in the comments if you're listening in. Message us. My question to you is, what leadership lesson are you currently living that no book could teach you? That's it. My friends, I think the greatest gift that God can give us isn't just information, right? Isn't just filling our heads. It's experience with reflection. That continues to give us a way to continue to transform and mold our hearts and change our hearts and our perspective on things, right? That way we can be the leaders that not just fill our head, but actually we reach out our hand and we can give fully from our heart. It's the connection from your head, your heart to your hand. When there is integrity in all three, guess what? That is a healthy leader. That is a healthy leader. When there's integrity within your mind, your head, your heart, and your hand. You're not just filling your head. You're not just an emotional person running around and swayed with emotions. You're not just leading with heart. And you're not just serving by your hand. You're connecting all three in integrity. And that, my friend, will help you be a healthy leader. That's it for this episode. My name is Paul Kalamosman. We'll close with that rather than ending, because at the end of the day, you'll see we're here to redefine what leadership success is, right? We're here to redefine it. It's gone way off the path, in my opinion, and we're here to just put things back. I know I'm not the only voice in this community doing that, so I appreciate all of you that's continuing to be that voice in healthy leadership and redefine what leadership success looks like. If you haven't subscribed yet, you know how to do these. I think podcast's been out there for a while. That way you can continue to share and reach out to people that are looking for healthy leadership modules and topics and conversations. And the last thing I'll say before we wrap up, we have two confirmed guests for the next 30 days right now. And I have a list of others that I reached out to. If you know anyone and you're listening in here that you'd like to see on these conversations, I want to give you that opportunity to message us with that person's name, and someone that you want to recommend. If you would like to be in this conversation, I want you to go ahead and message us also. I want to keep this natural. I want to keep this organic. I want to actually talk with people, not talk to just the camera, but actually go out there and talk to people that's listening in here and continue these conversations. So let's wrap up for today. Have a great day. I'll see you on the next episode. Aloha.